There are moments in life when the weight of the world feels unbearable, when doors slam in your face, when dreams seem distant, and when every step forward feels like a battle against invisible chains. You sit alone in the silence asking, "Why me?" Or, "When will it get better?" And in those quiet hours, something inside you whispers, "There's more." What if I told you that those closed doors weren't setbacks? They were sacred redirections. What if your pain wasn't punishment, but preparation? You see, there's a divine rhythm playing behind the noise of your daily life, a master plan unfolding with a precision that escapes human understanding. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. You are being shaped by unseen hands, molded by the very trials you thought would break you. Look back for a moment, all those delays, detours, heartbreaks. Wasn't there something strangely perfect about their timing? That, my friend, is not coincidence. That is divine orchestration. Today, you'll discover that you are not walking alone. Every moment of confusion, every ounce of pain, every unexpected turn, they are threads in a tapestry far greater than what your eyes can see. God's plan is not coming, it's already moving in your life right now. And once you begin to see it, you'll never look at your journey the same way again. Words you can use before going into the keynotes. And now, let me open your heart and mind to 5 life-changing truths. Here are 5 divine insights that will forever shift how you see your path. Let's dive into the sacred keys that reveal how His plan is taking shape. If you're ready, here are 5 powerful signs that God's hand is at work. Now, take these 5 truths and engrave them on your soul. Have you ever waited for something so long that you began to question if it would ever come? Maybe it was an opportunity, a relationship, a dream that burned deep in your soul. You planned, you prepared, you even prayed. But all you got in return was silence. Doors didn't open. Time dragged on. And your heart, it began to wonder if you were forgotten. But what if I told you that delay is not denial? What if the silence isn't the absence of movement, but the sound of something sacred being built behind the scenes? You see, we live in a world obsessed with speed. Everything is now. Instant answers, instant success, instant results. But God doesn't work on man's timeline. He doesn't rush greatness. He doesn't microwave purpose. When He's building something divine, it takes time. Not because He can't do it instantly, but because you must be ready to receive it. Sometimes the very thing you're praying for would crush you if it came too soon. Sometimes the delay is saving your destiny. Think about the seed buried in the soil. From the surface, it looks like nothing is happening. Days pass, then weeks, maybe even months, no sign of life. But deep beneath the ground, something powerful is taking place. Roots are forming. Foundations are growing strong enough to support the life that's about to burst forth. And if you dig it up too early, if you force it before its time, you kill what was meant to blossom. God does not forget what He promised. He does not abandon what He begins. If it's taking longer than you expected, it's only because He's preparing more than you imagined. We often cry out, "God, why is it taking so long?" But rarely do we ask, "God, what are you building in me while I wait?" The waiting season is not a wasted season. It's the womb of transformation. It's where your character is shaped, your strength is forged, and your faith is tested and strengthened. Because when the blessing finally arrives, you'll need more than excitement. You'll need endurance. You'll need wisdom. You'll need depth. And that's what the delay creates. How many times have you begged God for something, only to look back years later and thank Him that He didn't give it to you when you asked? That job you thought was perfect, but would have drained your soul. That relationship you chased, but would have broken you. That path you wanted, but would have taken you further from your true calling. You didn't miss out. You were redirected. You see, rejection isn't always a no. It's often a not here, not now, not this, because something better is coming, something that aligns with the depths of your purpose, not just the surface of your desires. But in the waiting, it's easy to forget that. It's easy to let doubt creep in, to let frustration turn into bitterness. That's why you must remind yourself. Every delay has a design. There's a story unfolding in your life that you can't fully see yet. The author is still writing it. You've only read a few pages, but he holds the entire book. And what you see as a setback might be the very chapter that sets you up for your greatest leap forward. I want you to imagine something for a moment. What if the opportunity you're waiting on right now, the one that seems delayed, distant, or even dead, is not late? What if it's exactly on time, but God is still refining you to match the magnitude of what's coming? Because blessings can be heavy. They come with responsibility. And unless you're rooted, grounded, and equipped, you may not be able to sustain what you were so desperate to receive. So don't curse the delay. Don't rush the process. Instead, lean into it. Ask, what is this teaching me? How is this preparing me? What qualities is God developing in me while I wait? Every moment you're not where you thought you'd be is a moment of divine training. That silence, it's sacred. That pause, it's protective. And those tears you've cried thinking you were forgotten, they're watering the very soil of your next breakthrough. Let me tell you something you may have forgotten. You're not behind. You're not off track. You're not late. You are right where you need to be, because the hand of God doesn't misplace his children. He leads them, even if your path looks different than others, even if their doors open before yours, even if it feels like everyone else is moving ahead while you're standing still. Trust that your lane was never meant to match theirs. God is writing your story, and he is a master storyteller. Every delay you face is another stroke of his pen, another brush on the canvas. And when it all comes together, you'll stand in awe and say, now I see why it had to happen that way. Now I understand why it took so long. It was always working for me, not against me. So today, if you find yourself waiting, don't grow weary. Don't let frustration steal your faith. The promise still stands. The plan is still active. And the delay, it's only a divine detour leading you closer to your destiny. The seed has been planted. The roots are growing. The bloom is coming. Hold on, heaven is still working. There comes a point in every life where something breaks. It might be your heart. It might be your trust. It might be your plans, your expectations, or even your identity. You wake up one day and realize the picture you painted for your future has been shattered into pieces, and all you're left holding are fragments of what once was. In those moments, you don't feel chosen. You don't feel strong. You don't feel spiritual or guided. You feel lost, empty, like life has drained the color from your soul. And you ask, why would God allow me to go through this? What purpose could there be in this pain? But what if I told you, brokenness is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of something sacred. We've been conditioned to believe that broken means damaged, defective, unworthy. But in the divine perspective, brokenness is not a curse. It's an invitation. It's the moment where God stops being a concept and starts being real to you. When you can't lean on your strength, your plans, or your people anymore. That's when you discover the only thing that never fails, his presence. There are lessons that only broken hearts can understand. There are depths of love, compassion, and faith that can only be reached through the valley. And it's in the breaking that the breakthrough begins. Think of the olive. It must be crushed to produce oil. The grape, pressed to release its sweetness. The soil, torn apart before the seed can be planted. In the kingdom, broken things don't lose value, they release it. You're not being broken to be destroyed. You're being broken to be opened. There is something inside of you that cannot come out in comfort. It can only be birthed through struggle. We often ask God for growth, for purpose, for strength. But we forget that these things don't come in pretty packages. Strength doesn't appear when life is easy. Faith doesn't grow when everything makes sense. Purpose isn't found in perfection. It's discovered in the ruins. So if you're broken right now, don't hide it. Don't numb it. Don't run from it. Sit with it. Honor it. Let it speak. Because within that pain, there's something holy. A calling, a wisdom, a version of yourself you haven't met yet. And God is closer to the brokenhearted than you can imagine. There's a kind of intimacy that only forms when you've cried yourself to sleep, when you've begged for answers, and when you've screamed at the sky asking if anyone's listening. And when the noise quiets down, and all you're left with is your breath and your brokenness, that's when his whisper reaches you. He doesn't just fix you, he transforms you. You may feel like the pieces of your life are scattered everywhere, but you're not being discarded. You're being reassembled. Not into who you used to be, but into someone stronger, wiser, and more aligned with who you were created to become. Sometimes God allows things to fall apart, not to punish you, but to free you, because you were clinging to things too small for your purpose. You were holding on to identities that limited you, relationships that drained you, habits that distracted you. And in his mercy, he broke what was false so you could find what's real. So many people fear brokenness because it feels like weakness. But here's the truth. Your scars are not signs of failure. They're proof you survived, proof you grew, proof you didn't stay down when life knocked you to your knees. You see, the most powerful people aren't the ones who've never been broken. They're the ones who allowed their brokenness to refine them. They didn't let it harden their hearts. They didn't let it make them bitter. They used it to become better. If you look closely at the lives of those who walk in deep wisdom, deep love, and deep purpose, you'll find behind every strength a story, a season of breaking, a valley that nearly swallowed them. But they didn't let the valley define them. They used it as fuel to rise. Even Jesus himself was broken. His body pierced, his spirit crushed, his blood poured out. And from that brokenness came resurrection, redemption, and eternal hope. You are not alone in your pain. Heaven knows what it feels like to be wounded. And heaven also knows what it means to rise again. That means you're not stuck. You're not too far gone. You're not too shattered to be healed. You are in the middle of a divine process. The breaking may feel violent, sudden, unfair, but something beautiful is being born from it. Imagine for a moment a stained glass window. It's made up of sharp, broken pieces. Individually, they look jagged and painful, but when placed together by the hands of a master artist, they create something breathtaking. That's your life. Every heartbreak, every failure, every tear. It's a piece of your stained glass story. And no, it may never look like what you imagined, but it will become something far more powerful. Not because it's perfect, but because it reflects light through the cracks. There is purpose in your pain. There is meaning in your mess. You are not broken beyond repair. You are breaking open, and your breakthrough is not coming in spite of the pain. It's coming through it. So let the tears fall if they need to. Let the silence come if it must. Let yourself feel it all. And then remember this truth: the very thing that broke you will become the bridge to your destiny. When the dust settles and the healing comes, you won't be the same. You'll be better. Not just stronger in the ways people can see, but deeper in the places they cannot. Because once you've been broken and rebuilt by God's hands, you walk with a fire no one can put out, and a faith no storm can shake. You're not just surviving this. You're being shaped by it. And in time, you'll look back and say, that breaking, it was my becoming. There is nothing quite like the ache of unanswered prayer. You kneel in desperation, you cry with sincerity, your heart pours out raw and honest words. And still, nothing changes. The silence is deafening. The waiting is endless. The stillness feels like rejection. And that's the hardest part, isn't it? It's not just that the answer didn't come. It's the feeling that you weren't heard, that your cries disappeared into the sky, that heaven turned its face away when you needed it the most. But what if the silence was actually mercy? What if the unanswered prayer wasn't God ignoring you, but God protecting you? We see life in fragments. We see the moment, the need, the longing. But God sees the entire picture. He sees the full timeline. He sees what's waiting down paths you can't yet see. And sometimes, in his love, he closes the very doors you were begging him to open. It doesn't always feel like love. Sometimes it feels like betrayal, because we confuse unanswered prayers with punishment, when in reality they are often divine redirections. Think about the things you once desperately wanted, the doors you pounded on, the opportunities you chased, the people you believed were your future. Now look at where you are. Look at what didn't happen. And ask yourself, would I have grown the way I did if that prayer had been answered? Sometimes God says no, because your prayer is too small for the size of your purpose. You were praying for comfort. He was preparing you for calling. You were asking for survival. He was building you for significance. You wanted to keep what felt safe, but he wanted to give you something sacred. We often pray from the perspective of what we want right now, but God responds from the perspective of what we need for who we're becoming. You may have been praying for a job, a person, an outcome, and when it didn't arrive, you felt defeated. But what if that delay, that denial, was your redirection to something better? What if every no was leading you to a greater yes that you hadn't even imagined yet? When you truly trust that God is working for your good, even the silence becomes sacred. You stop seeing unanswered prayers as evidence of abandonment and start seeing them as signposts pointing you toward divine alignment. Because not all that glitters is gold. Not all opportunity is God ordained. Some doors look right, feel right, even sound right, but would pull you further from your destiny. And so, in love, God shuts them. He allows relationships to end that would have broken you later. He closes jobs that would have suffocated your creativity. He removes people who looked like a blessing but were sent to distract. And while you're crying over what you lost, heaven is rejoicing over what you escaped. That's the beauty of redirection. It never looks like a blessing at first. It often comes wrapped in disappointment. It feels like an ending, but it's actually a new beginning in disguise, a better one, a more aligned one, a more powerful one. You didn't fail, you were rerouted. And sometimes the unanswered prayer isn't a redirection from danger. It's a redirection toward discovery. God wants to reveal parts of yourself that would have remained buried had you gotten what you wanted. Because pain has a way of waking you up. Silence forces you to go inward. Waiting stretches your faith. And all of that becomes the soil where your character deepens and your identity strengthens. So if you're in a season where prayers are going unanswered, lean in, not away. Ask different questions. Instead of asking, why didn't it happen? Try asking, what is this moment trying to teach me? Where is this redirecting me? What am I being invited to become? Sometimes you'll only understand in hindsight, and that's okay, because faith isn't about understanding everything now. It's about trusting even when you don't. Think of a child asking for something they don't yet realize is harmful. A parent doesn't grant the request out of cruelty. They say no, because they know more. God's perspective is higher, wider, deeper than ours. He sees the blind corners. He knows what's up ahead. And if he's holding something back, it's not because he's trying to withhold joy. It's because he's preparing to multiply it in ways you never expected. Some of the most pivotal moments in your life will come disguised as disappointment. But one day you'll look back and whisper, "Thank you, God, for not giving me what I thought I needed." You'll realize that if he had answered that prayer the way you wanted, you would have settled. You would have stopped short. You would have attached your destiny to a lesser outcome. But because he didn't, you grew. You stretched. You discovered. You found paths you never knew existed. You became someone you never would have become otherwise. And maybe, just maybe, unanswered prayers are God's way of freeing you from the limitations of your own vision. You were praying based on what you could see. He's guiding you based on what he knows. So trust the redirection. Trust the detours. Trust that what didn't work out wasn't the end. It was the start of something greater, something tailored, something divine. You are not forgotten. Your prayers don't disappear into the void. They're heard. They're felt. They're held in the heart of the one who loves you more than you love yourself. And he's not just answering your prayers. He's answering your purpose. So when you find yourself in the space between asking and receiving, don't lose heart. The silence is not empty. It's full of movement, alignment, preparation. Sometimes the greatest miracles come wrapped in unanswered prayers. And the redirection that hurts the most may just be the path that leads you home. There are moments in life when you stand in front of a door, a dream, a relationship, a career, an opportunity, and with all your heart, you knock, you pray, you plan. You even prepare your life around what's waiting behind it. But then, without warning, the door doesn't open. Or worse, it slams shut in your face, and you're left standing there, confused, disappointed, maybe even angry. You wonder what you did wrong. You question your faith. You doubt your worth. Because in your eyes, it made sense. It felt right. You wanted it more than anything. But it didn't happen. And the silence from heaven only deepens the ache in your chest. But what if that closed door wasn't rejection? What if it was redemption? We often think that closed doors mean failure, that we weren't good enough, spiritual enough, smart enough, or deserving enough. But the truth is, closed doors are not punishment, they are protection. Not everything that glitters is gold. Not every open path is safe. And not every yes leads to peace. God, in His infinite love, sees what you cannot. He hears conversations behind walls. He sees the traps wrapped in pretty packaging. He knows what's behind the curtain of your desires. And when He closes a door, He's not taking something from you. He's rescuing you from what you didn't even know could break you. Some of the most painful goodbyes, the hardest endings, and the most confusing losses are actually answers to prayers you never had the words to speak. You asked for peace. He closed the door to the chaos you didn't know was coming. You asked for purpose. He removed what would have pulled you in the wrong direction. You asked to be guided. And so He rerouted you even when it hurt. Closed doors sting. There's no denying that. Especially when you gave your heart to it. Especially when you built your hopes around it. But heartbreak is often the first step to wholeness. And when you look at your life, not through the lens of disappointment, but through the lens of divine alignment, you begin to see the beauty in the shut door. Because it's not about what didn't happen. It's about what you were spared from. You don't see the heartbreak that would have lingered behind that. Yes. You don't see the stress, the compromise, the identity you would have lost trying to make it fit. You don't see how small that door actually was in comparison to what you were born for. And that's what makes trust so radical, because it requires you to surrender the illusion that you know what's best, and believe that sometimes God blocks what you want to make room for what you need. If the door closed, it's because what's behind it can no longer go with you. You've outgrown it, or it would have delayed you, or it would have taken you on a detour so long, you may never have found your way back to your purpose. So instead of standing in front of closed doors begging them to open again, what if you started blessing them? What if you whispered, "Thank you," through the tears, trusting that one day you'll see the full picture and realize this was grace in disguise? Think about all the people, places, jobs, and situations you once thought were everything. Now fast forward. Look at how your life unfolded without them. Look at the peace you found after the pain. Look at the clarity that came after the confusion. You didn't lose anything that was meant to stay. And you didn't miss anything that was meant to be yours. God doesn't slam doors to leave you hopeless. He closes them to redirect your destiny. And sometimes He needs to close one door to get your attention, to shake you out of comfort, to wake you from distraction, to strip away the good so He can give you greatness. The thing about closed doors is they're not always physical. Sometimes they're emotional. You feel disconnected from things you once loved. You no longer find joy in spaces that once lit you up. That too is a door closing, spiritually. Energetically, you are being released, not rejected. Released from the lower version of yourself. Released from cycles that kept you small. Released from environments that no longer match the magnitude of your calling. It doesn't mean it was all bad. Some doors served their season. Some people were part of your process. But not everyone is meant to cross the threshold into your next chapter. And that's okay. Your job is not to force it. Your job is to trust the flow of divine guidance. Because here's the promise: for every door that closes, there is another prepared with your name on it. One that opens without force. One that brings peace, not confusion. One that feels like home to your spirit. You'll know it by how it honors your growth, by how it expands you, not depletes you, by how it aligns with your purpose instead of pulling you away from it. So if you're staring at a closed door today, grieving it, missing it, wishing it would open again, let this be your reminder: closed doors don't define you. They refine you. They don't mean you're off track. They mean you're being protected from roads that were never part of your divine route. And maybe right now, you don't understand why it had to close. That's okay. You don't have to understand to trust. You just have to take the next step, even if it's slow, even if it's painful, because on the other side of that closed door is a life that fits your spirit, not just your plans. And one day, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day, you'll look back and say, if that door had never closed, I would have never discovered what was truly meant for me. And that realization, that peace, that freedom, that's when you'll finally understand the door didn't close to punish you. It closed because grace covered you. There's a certain kind of H that only waiting can create. When you've done everything right, you prayed, you believed, you sacrificed, you stayed faithful, and still nothing seems to be moving. The promise hasn't come. The breakthrough hasn't arrived, and you start to wonder, did God forget me? Did he change his mind? It's in these quiet, stretching seasons that doubt becomes loud. The enemy begins to whisper, if it was really meant for you, it would have happened by now. Your heart begins to feel heavy, not because you don't believe in the promise, but because you've been carrying it for so long without seeing its fulfillment. You start to compare timelines. You see others getting what you're still praying for. You see doors opening for people who didn't work as hard, didn't believe as deeply, and didn't fight as fiercely. And you feel stuck in the middle of nowhere. Too far to go back, not close enough to move forward. But hear this with every fiber of your being. The delay is not denial. It is divine timing. What you are waiting on isn't being withheld from you. It's being prepared for you. And just as importantly, you are being prepared for it. Because there's a version of you that the blessing requires. And sometimes the gap between the promise and the manifestation is the sacred space where God builds you, where he strengthens your character, deepens your faith, clears out your insecurities, and grows your wisdom so that when the moment comes, you don't just receive it, you're ready to carry it. Premature blessings can crush you. Things given too early can feel like a curse. That relationship you wanted so badly might have broken you if it came when you were still healing. That platform, that influence, that recognition, it could have consumed you if it showed up when your identity wasn't rooted deep enough in truth. There is purpose in the pause. And I know waiting is not easy. It stretches you. It humbles you. It reveals every hidden doubt you didn't know was living inside your heart. But it also does something beautiful. It refines you. Waiting teaches you to trust what you can't see. It shifts your dependence from outcome to intimacy. You stop worshiping the result and start leaning into relationship. You begin to understand that God isn't just the giver, he is the gift. And that changes everything. Because now, instead of waiting with anxiety, you wait with expectation. Not the kind of expectation that says, it has to happen now, but the kind that says, even if it's not now, I know it's still coming, and when it does, it will be right. That kind of faith isn't built overnight. It's forged in the quiet, in the ache, in the tears you cried when nobody was watching. It's shaped in the moments when you had every reason to give up, but you didn't. You kept walking. You kept believing. You kept planting seeds even when you saw no harvest. And that's the soil where miracles grow. You see, the same God who gave you the vision has already appointed the season. But his clock doesn't tick like ours. He's not operating on delay. He's operating on design. Every second that passes is not wasted. It's working. Behind the scenes, in places you can't see, in hearts you don't even know yet, God is arranging details, aligning people, orchestrating events. You think it's still, but it's moving. You think it's silent, but it's speaking. You think it's late, but it's right on time. Because when God moves, he moves in fullness. Not halfway, not sort of, not good enough for now. He releases what's yours when it's ready to last. And not just last, multiply. But here's the key: you can't receive divine timing with a hurried heart. You have to learn the rhythm of rested faith. That place where you're still active, still building, still showing up, but not striving. You've released the timeline. You've surrendered the pressure. You've let go of forcing doors open and instead trust that what's meant for you will never miss you. And what misses you was never meant for you. That's when peace returns. And something incredible happens in that space. You start to change. Not because the promise has come yet, but because you're no longer dependent on it to feel whole. You become grounded, strong, steady. And when the blessing comes, it doesn't complete you. It complements you. That's why the waiting season matters so much. It's not a punishment. It's preparation. Because you were never meant to walk into your promise insecure, fragile, or desperate for validation. You were meant to walk in with authority, with clarity, with the wisdom to steward it well. And often, the longer the wait, the greater the weight the blessing carries. So if your answer hasn't come yet, don't quit. Don't shrink. Don't settle. And please, don't assume the silence means denial. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not disqualified. You are right on schedule, even if you don't understand it yet. God is not only interested in what you're waiting for, He's invested in who you're becoming while you wait. So keep showing up, keep planting, keep praying, but also keep trusting that the pause is part of the plan. And when the time is right, what's yours will come. And it will come with confirmation, with peace, and with a sense that this is exactly where I was meant to be. Because when it's divine timing, no one can take it, no one can stop it, and nothing can delay it any longer. It will find you, and you'll finally realize it was always worth the wait. So if you're still waiting, still wondering, still walking through the unknown, remember this: God hasn't forgotten you. Every delay, every detour, every closed door is part of a perfect plan unfolding in divine rhythm. Keep trusting, keep moving, because what's meant for you is not just coming. It's coming right on time, full of purpose, wrapped in grace, and far greater than you imagined.